Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the centennial edition of our Economic Development Commission breakfast. On behalf of the Economic Development Commission, our village board, our staff, and all of our businesses, thank you for coming out on this very frosty morning to join us to get an update on economic development activity in the community. Many of you are our movers and shakers. You're in the throes of it, so you may know. But I think what's important today is also the business people that we're going to be recognizing. You know, even though this breakfast doesn't really have a centennial theme other than the purple napkins, it is good to reflect on this morning based on the filter of history that we've had here. Those of you who were with us when we buried the time capsule and christened Centennial Green anew a couple of weeks ago, you know that we put some plaques up honoring some of our founders. And we didn't call them founding fathers, founding families, we called them founding visionaries. And that's because they were a group of very astute, very smart, very successful business people who recognized that it took a team approach to create the village that they envisioned in the future. So when you read the histories, you find out that Mr. A recruited the blacksmith and Mr. B recruited the station master and on and on and on. They kind of set up their model village and said, we've got some roles to fill, who can help us do that? I think if we look 100 years later, we're in the exact same position. We've obviously got the legacy of 100 years that we're working with, but we have an incredible team of visionaries in both the public and the private sector who are really helping us to make the Mount Prospect for the next 100 years. And that's why I was so thrilled to see who our award winners are this morning. They truly are visionaries in the community who recognize the value of teamwork and community. And I'm looking forward to Bill's presentation and to hearing from our award winners. So enjoy the morning.
So, you know, Mount Prospect is a town of 55,000 plus. Small town to a lot of people, large town to others, but it's home to all of us, and it's a great place for businesses to succeed. The community benefits from really a wide array of development that's taken place. We have a large industrial base, a large retail base, office flex space, as well as a great residential community, and obviously the schools and park districts that support everything that's going on. The first slide I want to hit on today is just kind of give you an idea of the inventory of the village and how important this is to the community. And also talk a little bit about vacancies, because you hear a lot of people saying, oh, there's a lot of vacant stores here, or a lot of things going on that they don't think are great. We have over 3 million square feet of retail space, 1 million of which is at Randhurst, over 4.6 million square feet of industrial space, 1.2 million square feet of flex space, and another 1.7 million square feet of office space throughout the community. This is important because all these uses really support the services that are provided not only to themselves, but also to the residents in the community. These uses provide not only property taxes at a much higher rate than residential properties do, but they also produce a lot of sales tax revenue, which is very important to us. The village this year, actually, the largest single source of revenue to the community is sales tax, over $20 million worth of revenue on a $100 million budget. So it's a significant thing, but also they provide employment opportunities for the community and bring in people that support the other, you know, the industrial users and the office users, bring in employees that support the restaurants and other retail uses in the community. Just a quick rundown of the vacancy rates. I know there's some people in the room that are in the commercial real estate business. We have a 6.9% vacancy rate in our retail section. Chicagoland wide is about 10%. In the northwest suburbs, it's probably hovering at 7.5%, 8%. So we're doing better than average, but we always want to do better. And it's a kind of a day-by-day thing. I look at the reports that come out on a daily basis to see what's going on. We read the industry journals and things to find out who's doing well, who's doing not. We all read about the internet sales and the impact on retail. It's something we watch closely and work with the various property owners to make sure that we're on top of it. The industrial rate is about, and really the rest of these rates are pretty standard with what's going on in the northwest suburbs. I would note one thing in the office rate. I took out the United Airlines parcel, which is 1 million square feet of office and is technically listed as 100% occupied, which gave us about an 11% vacancy rate, which would be phenomenal right now in the office industry. But that property is in flux. We're actually working with United and a couple of prospective developers, and we're not sure at the end of the day that 1 million square feet is going to be what it is today. It could be something completely different. It's kind of given an exciting opportunity for us going forward. So I'm going to go back to my screen here, going to the north, or starting at the south, kind of the key things going on in town. This year, this intersection, which shows you how recent it is, recently was completed and now gives a full interchange at the intersection of I-90 and Elmhurst Road. We feel that's going to be a significant boost to especially on the south side of town, the industrial and retail spaces that exist down there. The village recently went forward, and this area here, which is basically bounded by the tollway, by Oakton, by 83 and Algonquin Road, which is primarily industrial and commercial space, we annexed over 100 acres over the last year and a half. This map here shows graphically the properties that the village annexed in. The areas in yellow we did in 2016. The areas in, I believe that's red, are properties that we annexed earlier this year. And the areas in green are areas that are under consideration for prospective annexation. That's a significant effort that the village undertook, and it's a significant impact to the village as a whole because it's, as I said, our United Airlines is 1 million square feet, but all these colored areas, with the exception of the green, consist of about 2.4 million square feet of new industrial and retail space that has been brought into the community. And that's significant as it has $50 million of EAV, equalized assessed value, which is really what the property taxes are based off of. The village has about a $1.5 billion base EAV, so that $50 million of new EAV is about 3.5% increase overall. What that does is it spreads out the cost of all the services that the village provides amongst all property owners, thereby reducing taxes to existing residents, existing businesses in the community. We're evaluating in this area a lot of opportunities to upgrade the public infrastructure, the pedestrian, bicycle activity, movements in that area. We feel this is an underserved area that it's been in the county for a long, long time, and the upcoming years are going to provide the village an opportunity to benefit these individuals and hopefully bring this whole area up a level into what Mount Prospect expects throughout the community. So back to this. So moving along, I spoke briefly about the United Airlines property. And as you all probably are aware, United was at this location for probably about 40 years, employed 3,000 individuals at one point. They moved out probably roughly a decade ago into Willis Tower downtown. United did invest significantly in this data center here. It was a $200 million investment in the community a couple of years back. And now this entire campus is on the market, and we have several development groups that have expressed an interest in it. It's a long-term play from a village standpoint. We've evaluated the different potential uses that could go there. Probably looking more in the industrial segment, realistically, at this location. But it's an opportunity to really, again, grow the EAV in the village and grow employment opportunities throughout the community. We're going to fly over to where we are right now. Here's Victoria Park, where we're sitting today. We have one large development parcel remaining on the what was the Lake Center Park development. Right now, it's home to CVS, NTS, and a couple other businesses in this area. Some of our most significant employers in the community. We're working with Alta right now on a speculative development because the industrial segment is so hot. For about 110,000 square feet of industrial, similar type building as to what you see to the south of us. In addition, creating a commercial pad along Route 83 and then another commercial pad along Algonquin. That will require village approval through a zoning process, but it's consistent with what the long-range plan is in our comprehensive plan, which we're actually about to complete a recent update of that. So that's a great opportunity for us, probably something in 2018 that we expect to see coming forward. On a flip note, this shows some of the struggles. I talked about retail a little bit, and the largest vacancy in town right now is the former Hobby Lobby shop. So this is the Kohl's Center at the northwest corner of Dempster and 83. This center is one that we're working with Kimco, who's the property owner, to try and get a replacement tenant for Hobby Lobby. It's about 50,000 square feet. If you go back to the slide on the vacancies, that's about a sixth of all the vacancy in town. So you get one vacancy that hits, and all of a sudden your vacancy rate changes pretty significantly. We have 3.1 million square feet of retail. Every time 30,000 square feet goes plus or minus, that's a 1% change in the vacancy rate for the village. We're looking at even non-retail uses potentially for that site that replace it. You know, you have the fitness centers, you have other uses that aren't necessarily retail sales tax producing. So it's something the village has to keep in mind as we look at different land uses and what type of impact that has going forward on the village's budget. But there's also, as I said, we watch trends, and the Kohl's here is about 100,000 square foot Kohl's, and most Kohl's these days are going to about a 50,000 square foot footprint. So we watch and we talk to the property owners and try and keep a pulse on what's going on. But there's always those realities going forward that you have to have concerns. Looking forward, for instance, at Ranners, which has been a very successful project, and a lot of other communities have tried to copy that same program that we did to revitalize that. It's doing very well right now. It's in the mid to lower 90 percentile of occupancy, but if you read the papers, you have Carson's 200,000 square foot user. Who knows if that's going to be around in 2 or 3 years? And I know Dale's looking at me like saying, please, no. But the reality is those are things we have to be prepared for and try and be able to be flexible as we go forward on redevelopment opportunities. Another shopping center in town that did a significant reinvestment, albeit a little slower than we would have liked to maybe seen, is Golf Plaza 2. Golf Plaza 2, a center was anchored by Dominic's for years. Mr. DiMucci, the DiMucci companies, did a significant investment, got Katy Market to take over the majority of that space. We have the Ball Factory taking over another third of that, and there's a small space available. He also put a significant investment into the parking lot and actually put in landscaping, which was lacking for years and years, where he did a facade improvement along the entire south end of the site. We're working with him now on plans for moving forward on the north side of the site, which is right here. There was a concept plan initially for a Starbucks outlot development along 83. We're now looking at a potential demolition of a portion of the north property here and a Starbucks drive-through concept being put on there, which I think would draw a lot of activity to that site. It's an example of, we have many centers in town that are 30 to 40 years old that are in various states of repair or of positive or negative. This one was negative. We're now seeing a positive investment in that center, and we're hoping moving forward that we're going to see additional improvements from the DiMucci company. I'll try not to make you that dizzy this time. A very positive maneuver or improvement in the village was over at Arthur and Central. The village has about 4.1 million square feet of industrial space. This site is home to Bosch Tool, Rowland Borg, and looking at third tenant at the moment, but there's over 1,000 tenants at this location. The village is very supportive of what's called a Class 6B incentive, which supports industrial development and occupancy. Their 6B was up for renewal this year. Bosch was looking at different options, whether they're going to stay. The village committed to that 6B for another 10-year period, and thereby basically preserving 1,000 jobs and 700,000 square feet of occupied industrial space, which is a very important thing for the community. Moving over to our downtown, which is where we have a lot of things going on right now. I'm sure many of you have read the proposed 20 West project in what's called the Bussey Triangle. This is from our downtown plan. It shows opportunity sites, as we call it. This was done in 2013. And these opportunities are coming to fruition as we speak today. Several of these projects are going to be moving forward in 2018. Mike challenged staff to have 6 cranes in the air this year. We've modified that to have 6 bulldozers, and we have those sites in a position now that in 2018 we're going to probably have in the range of 6 cranes moving, which is going to be a very positive thing for our downtown. The 20 West proposal basically develops the western edge of the Busse Triangle with a 73-unit mixed-use development. This is a rendering of the proposal. As I said, there's 73 luxury apartments, something that the downtown does not have right now. I think we'll be bringing a different mix of residents into the downtown district that will support the business community. It also proposes a 2-story rooftop restaurant pad that Nichols & Associates is a developer on this. They have a tentative agreement to bring Mia's over from Prospect Avenue. I don't know if you've eaten there, but Mia's has done very well. It's actually one of our first success stories out of our Entrepreneurs Cafe, now Mount Prospect Entrepreneurs Initiative. The gentleman that runs that, Esteban, is a local resident, came to a couple of our events and has succeeded and actually has opened a second location in Downers Grove. But we're looking to put that on this site, which would, I think, be a focal point of that downtown and really revitalize the Triangle area. Kind of a cool thing that is going to come this year, again in conjunction with Nichols & Associates, is on that site, we're going to have an outdoor ice rink. And it's going to be open to the public. It's going to be pretty much a full sheet of ice that will be open for free skating from November through March. And I think it's going to be it'll be a cool, unique draw in the downtown while we wait to get gear up for development in the spring of 2018. Here's a site that I'm kind of sick of looking at, quite frankly. It's at Central and Main. It's the old Central Plaza site. As you may recall, the village over the last 3 years basically took a pretty aggressive stance, and because there was no property owner that came to the forefront. That it was basically an abandoned property due to a couple of bankruptcies through a few banks. But the village ultimately went after some property maintenance issues that weren't addressed. We demolished the site. We cleaned up. There were 7 underground tanks for heating tanks and a little bit of a perk spill on that site. So the village spent $650,000 to basically create this development pad. We then foreclosed on it and now own it. And we have a letter of intent with First Equity Group for a redevelopment of that site, which basically would consist of 2 things. It would be the relocation of Chase Bank out of the existing downtown mid-rise building to the corner, and then a second pad for either a retail use or a restaurant use basically to the north of that site. Creating a left turn lane off of 83 to get into that site, because that's one of the challenges, getting in and out of it, eliminating that bad entrance right off of 83 on Central, creating a much better flow, and creating it may not be what I would call a sexy use on that corner. It first of all stabilizes the corner with Chase and another use. The village actually will, under the current agreement, would net $1 million profit on that site, which we're going to be able to then turn around and use on other developments in the downtown district. And then it also potentially opens up the existing Chase Bank, which is this building and another one, the MetLife building up at Kensington Business Park, are probably half the vacancy of all the office space in town. This building's about a 70,000 square foot office building, and it's probably at about 30,000 feet of occupancy, which is not helping the downtown, not helping the restaurants and everything. So by Chase moving out of it, this property has been put on the market now for a little bit over a year. We have a lot of interest from mixed-use developments for, again, probably high-end luxury apartments in the range of 150 to 200 units. Some retail space along Emerson to complement the existing retail space that exists there now. The big question mark would be, would you keep this building and try and reskin it, or would you just start over again and have a completely new development? And that's yet to be determined, and something that we'll be discussing probably over the next 6 months. Another exciting opportunity here is Parenti and Raffaelli, who we'll be talking to in a little bit. They actually have spent quite a bit of money. They're relocating from the downtown location. Parenti Raffaelli has been at this location since the late 80s. And this is an area just north of Lions Park. The village-owned commuter, 300-space commuter lot. They also own this building. And then there's a 3-unit industrial condo building to the south. This entire area is in play for a potential redevelopment. Again, Nicholas and Associates has been working with Parenti to relocate them. They've moved over to the former IIT location in the Kensington Business Park, took over a 30,000 square foot building, doubled the size of it to 60,000 square feet, and they've started the move already. So they'll be out of this location probably within a month or so. And then you'll see a demolition taking place and a lot of land use planning, a lot of public discussion about what's going to happen here. It's a project that could incorporate not only this property, but a redo or a rehabilitation of the Lions Park Rec Center, and that entire, so it almost becomes a campus on the southeast side of the downtown. Initial proposals range from anywhere from the high 100s to the low 300s in residential units, with a mix of rental apartments and luxury townhomes. We also, part of that is to relocate the 300 commuter parking spaces in a way that makes sense from a land use planning standpoint and works for the individuals that benefit from that now. The discussions with the Park District are involved because there's a potential that the rec components can benefit that development, and therefore there might be dollars that can be used to really upgrade that center, the entire Lions Park area center that is kind of in getting old and dated, the wave pool and the tennis courts and everything that are out there now in the rec center itself. So that project's going to be one of the more significant projects that's coming forward over the next year. It could be ready for redevelopment as early as next spring and maybe a little bit later, but it's something that's going to take a lot of public discussion. We're evaluating additional crossings potentially over the train tracks. There's obviously going to be traffic generated by this proposal, but it's an opportunity to improve traffic flow in the downtown, pedestrian flow, and create an amenity there. There's potential to add some restaurant, retail space to kind of draw people down Prospect Avenue. So a lot to think about. A very exciting potential project. This project's underway. It's over at the intersection of Elmhurst and Prospect Avenue, a small 3-unit row home development, but kind of a nice little infill piece. It's a vacant grass lot that's been there for years. This is going to be on the market probably in early spring. You're talking about $400,000 to $500,000 value, but I think it's a nice looking project and a nice little start to improve that frontage along Prospect Avenue. We also have we're talking with a development group that's looking at the parcel that is located just north of the post office. So we've got the vacant parcel just north of the post office, right here. That it was years ago was like a small little office complex. It was demolished probably 15 years ago now. It would be the start of an infill development there. They're luxury row homes with a nice interior courtyard. The developer we're talking to is trying to push the price point on those to the mid 500s to the upper $500,000 number. We envision long term that the post office probably is going to go away. I mean, the way the world's trending with post office throughout the area. And the downtown plan calls for additional residential mid-rise type development with maybe some retail frontage along Central. That's longer term. Other things in the downtown of interest, the train station was recently completed. A nice federal project, which took over a year to do, but it was sorely needed. I don't know if anyone's taken the train and saw what the train station looked like. That's been upgraded. It's a good visual for the downtown. We're also working on, you've probably seen some pads going in on Prospect Avenue across from PME and in some of the parking lots. There's going to be some covered bike parking improvements that are beginning to go in, Nelly, this year still? Yep. And then our second phase of wayfinding. I don't know if you've seen some of the banners that have been put up and some of the improvements that way. We're looking at kiosks now that are going to be going in. this year. So again, we're going to the continued effort to focus on the downtown district. In the past year, Brick City Tavern, Honey Butter, Dunkin' Donuts, The Gathering Place, The Collective, Language Stars, Byroney Law Offices, Lemons of Love, and of course our chamber, just located in the downtown district. So there's been a lot of activity, a lot of movement in the various retail spaces available, and we look forward to continued improvements. I met yesterday with a really exciting opportunity at the Mount Prospect Station, which is located on the former Tri-State piece. The corner, so you've got Dunkin' on the west end, and then you've got Amethyst Salon going in next to that, and then the end cap unit is what hopefully will be a really unique restaurant opportunity that's not existing really in the village at all. I can't get into the details yet, but keeping my fingers crossed, if it happens, I think it'll be a great boon for the downtown district. So we got a Rand Road corridor. Years ago, when the village entered into the development agreement that we did with Randhurst, one of the reasons, or one of several reasons that we did it was, number one, obviously to stabilize and improve Randhurst, and it became Randhurst Village. But the other was, we knew that Rand Road was really the key corridor for retail sales tax generation. About 70% came from that district. So the investment was made for that, and we've seen the investment from the private side going in. Mount Prospect Plaza, pretty well occupied. Home Goods just went in where Marshalls, or combined with Marshalls to upgrade that site. We have the Mitchell Buick site, which is this used to be Mitchell Buick, and has basically been a vacant 5-acre parcel for years now. We had a neighborhood meeting a week and a half ago to discuss this proposed development, which would be four pads: AAA, the Tile Shop, Texas Roadhouse, and then a unknown use on the far southeast corner. This will be going through the Planning and Zoning Commission. I believe they're looking to submit in December, probably in January, and hopefully, again, like in many other developments, we'll see in April of next year the improvements there. Along Rand Road, we've also seen a bunch of major national tenants make significant improvements. Starbucks relocated north of their inline pad, did a drive-through. It's been very successful. Andy's Custard went in the old Wendy's site, demolished that site, redeveloped it. Potbelly's went in the old McDonald's site because McDonald's went in across the street. Menards has been doing a major improvement on their pad for the last 3 years, and they're nearly complete with that. They almost doubled the size of that facility. I already spoke of Home Goods. So you've got this intersection of Rand, Elmhurst, and Kensington. This entire area is like, when I talk to the development community, this is where people want to be. And they're maneuvering different sites. You're seeing the national tenants look at different opportunities and kind of pick the better spots. Recently, Firestone put their property up for sale, and it already has been sold. So this site will likely be modified. Firestone will be out of there. It'll be another development opportunity right across from Randhurst, which is obviously a very key site for retail. We're also considering a proposal to redevelop the 3 houses that are just north of Chick-fil-A into a retail development. Buena Beef has expressed a strong interest in that. We're working with them on a site plan. That would require public hearings, rezoning of the property, but we're encouraged by the interest by Buena, and we think that would be a good add to the retail along here on Rand Road. Randhurst Village, again, our largest retail center in town, 1 million square feet. As I talked about, there's always going to be ebbs and flows in the retail world, and we lost Sports Authority about a year ago, which was a 40,000 square foot vacancy. Michael's is opening today, I believe, actually, is their soft opening, and they'll have a grand opening this weekend, which has been well received by the community. The northwest corner of Randhurst, if you haven't been over there recently, the former Chase Bank site, this has been demolished completely. And on this corner, you're going to have a two-pad development. There'll be a similar, kind of like the Payway and the Panera development along 83. That's going to be occupied by McAllister's Deli, Tide Cleaners. I think we're going to relocate one of the phone tenants out to that site. to open up a restaurant pad for next to the theater. And then there's going to be about a 20,000-foot pad opportunity that at this point is unspoken for. We also have, if you've seen some construction going on behind Costco, south of the parking garage, that is the Kiddie Academy, which is a daycare facility, which some people are like, why daycare? It's actually a good mix, bringing in families onto the site that'll support the restaurants and retail in that area. There's one more pad remaining after that, just north of Panera. It's about a 9,000 square foot pad. We have plans in for the site, not for a tenant yet. I don't anticipate that in the near future, maybe hopefully in 2018. But the goal is for a restaurant pad on that location. Heading east, the old Bogey site. This one's been a tough sell. We're really marketing now more towards senior housing. The retail world doesn't seem that interested on Kensington as you head east. The traffic counts on Kensington are about 6,000 cars a day, whereas you have on Rand Road about 23,000. So it's going to take a specific type of user. We've talked to people that are interested in an indoor swimming schools. We've seen a couple of those in the area. But senior housing seems to get the most interest at this point, but nothing specific to report at this time. And then finally, this is our largest industrial area, the Kensington Business Center. In the 20-plus years I've been here, I've seen the vacancy numbers in this park range anywhere from 10 to 40%. We're at a really good point now. We're at 11% overall. On the industrial side, we're actually down to about 7% in this park, which is still a little above where our village-wide average of about 5.9%. The challenge in this park is a lot of flex space, a lot of office space, and the office market right now is very, very weak in the whole region, not in Mount Prospect specifically. That 11% number is really driven primarily by the MetLife building, which they were a 20-year tenant. They downsized, moved out of the area. That's an 80,000 square foot office space that is our number one vacancy that we're working on. The other larger vacancy is 799 Bierman Court, which that one is an industrial warehousing building. I believe we're going to have more success. We've had a lot of inquiries that we're working with the owner of that to make that a successful operation. In this last year, as I mentioned, Parenti has moved down to the IIT site, and they doubled the size of that building. Northland Labs took over the facility on the southwest corner of the site. Sam's Beauty took over 100,000 square feet. EA Langfield and the Brickton Group are taking over the old Toco building. So there's a lot of activity, a lot of interest, and really two significant vacancies that we will continue to work on with the brokerage community.